Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make the dress that you've just seen at the beginning of the video. It's a Pinterest inspired dress, but the one that I was seeing was in a knitted version, so I decided to create a crochet version of this design. So let me know in the comment section how I performed or how I did. I'm going to be attaching some inspirational photos that I saved off Pinterest, and these are the images that inspired this design. If you would like the written pattern, it's already available on all my online shops. And for this design, I'll be demonstrating from size extra small all the way to 2XL. But this is a made-to-measure design, meaning you can tweak the instructions in order to suit your desired fitting, even if you're beyond 2XL size. So today I'll be using several colors. For me, I picked a total of 4 colors, and this is a perfect scrap yarn project. So if you have any scrap yarn lying around, make use of it for this project, and I promise you won't be disappointed in your final results. Just make sure you place the colors as you wish, and let's see the different effects of different colors on this project. If you happen to make this design, make sure you tag me in your finished piece. I would love to see those. You can tag me on Instagram. I'll be leaving all my details behind. So today I used a white color, green, brown, and mint. So these are the colors that I'm going to be playing around with and randomly placing them in order to create the effect that you've seen at the beginning of the video. And another thing is the amount of yarn. Each ball of this yarn is 150 yards. For the 3 colors here, I used 1.5 balls, approximately 1.5 balls for these colors. And then for the main color, which is the color for the collar as well as the edging, I used approximately 3 balls. I'll be calculating and leaving the details in the description box below so that in case you're looking for the yarn amounts, you can follow that and substitute the yarn with your desired or your available yarn in your country. This is the yarn that I used. It's milk cotton, and that will be enough for you to make your piece. So another thing that you'll need is a 4mm crochet hook, and then a darning needle, some stitch markers. I just have these here. And then you also need a measuring tape because we have to take a few measurements from the top of your collar or your shoulder to your underbust, your bust circumference, your waistline circumference, your hip circumference, the length of the dress that you want. There are so many aspects that we're going to consider while creating this design. So make sure you have your measuring tape. And yeah, I guess that's basically it. Let's get into the video and learn how to make this beautiful dress. Alright guys, now I'm going to start off with my very first color, and I'm going to start with a chain of 6. Now for all the other sizes, I am demonstrating for a size extra small, but for all the other sizes, I'll be recommending a number of chains on the screen. So for me, I'm starting with a chain of 6. And this piece is worked right from the top all the way down, and then we shall do some neckline shaping later on. So I have my chain of 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but do what you have to do for the different sizes. Now you're going to have double crochet into the second chain from the hook. This pattern is explained in US terms. So you're going to go all the way across with 1 half double crochet in each and every chain. And you should notice that you have 1 stitch less than the starting chain. So I have a total of 5 half double crochets. Now we're going on to row 2. You're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. This is going to be your increase side. So in the very first stitch, you're going to place 2 half double crochets, And at this point, at row 1, you should be having a different number of stitches depending on the starting chain that you considered. So 2 half double crochets in the very first stitch, and then 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch across. So the number of stitches for row 2 should increase by 1 from the ones of row 1. So I had 5 stitches at row 1. Now at row 2, I have a total of 6 stitches. You're going to get a stitch marker and just mark the side of the increases, just like that. Now for row 3, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. This is going to be a plain row, no increasing at all. So you're going to go into each and every stitch with 1 half double crochet. So the number of stitches for row 3 should be the same exact as the ones of row 2. Just like that. And then row 4 is going to be the same as row 2. So you increase at the beginning of the row. You make a chain of 1 and turn your work, and half double crochet 2 times in the very first stitch, and then 1 half double crochet in each of the next stitches. So at this point, the number of stitches should increase by 1. So I have a total of 7 stitches, but if you did for a different size, definitely you'll have more stitches at this point. This is row 4. Row 5 is going to resemble row 3, so it's a plain row. You're going to just go chain 1 and turn, and half double crochet once in each and every stitch. So the number of stitches for row 5 should be the same exact as the ones of row 4. Now row 6 is going to be an increase row, and we're going to repeat the same exact thing that we did for row 2 and row 4. So you make a chain of 1 and turn your work, 2 half double crochets in the very first stitch, and then 1 half double crochet in each of the next stitches until the end of the row. And at this point, for size small, extra small, you will have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 stitches. You see why I put a stitch marker here? That's because the increase is very subtle. You may even fail to recognize the side of increase, but we can see it slanting a little bit. Now we're going to make a chain of 1 and cut our yarn, because we are going to switch colors. Leave a tail behind to weave in. I'll weave in my tails later on, so I'm going to leave them hanging for now. Now we have a total of 6 rows, and at row 7 we're going to start doing something totally different. You're going to choose your next color. For me, I used a total of 4 colors, and that is what I planned to do, but you can use as many colors as you wish. So row 5, from row 5 until you get to your underbust. So this is going to be up like at the level of your neck, all the way down to your bust, your underbust level. I'll be recommending a number of rows, but this is the row that you're going to repeat again and again. You're going to attach your yarn where you left off the previous row. Remember, it's on the side of no increase. The side with the stitch marker is the side of increase. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and half double crochet in the very first stitch, and then half double crochet all the way across, because you've started your row on the side that is not an increase side. This is row 7. And when you get to the end this time, you're going to place 2 half double crochets in the last stitch on the side of increase where the stitch marker is located. And then you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. And you're on the side of increase, so row 8, you're going to place 2 half double crochets into the very first stitch and 1 half double crochet in each of the next stitches until the end of the row. And remember, we don't increase at the end of the even rows because we end them on the side of no increase, on the flat edge. You can see this is a flat edge and this is the side that's increasing. This is the one that's going to spread out to create coverage for the bust. So this is the one that's going towards your armpit. So at this point, I'm going to make a chain of 1. As I had mentioned, place your colors the way you wish to place them. So you're going to repeat rows 7 and 8 again and again until you get to your underbust. So for me, I've already worked my very first panel and this is what it looks like. As you can see here, we are at this point, at this level right now, but you're going to keep increasing on this side for each and every row, whether it's at the beginning of the row. As long as you're on the side of increase, make sure you increase at the end or at the beginning of the row, and place your colors the way you wish. So I did 6 2 1 6 1 1 1 2 1, then 6 1, and at this point I got to that level, the underbust level, and I made a total of around 9.5 inches. So I'll be recommending a number of rows to make, as well as the inches that you should consider on the screen. So let me go ahead and build this one to this level and then shall see what to do next. All right guys, so I have done an identical piece and I have about 9.5 inches. For all the other sizes, you'll add half an inch, I think, to 2 more rows, which will give you an extra of half an inch without stretching. That's what I have, and I'll be putting it on the screen. So I have these 2 pieces. You're going to, after your last row, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. So for me, let me count the number of rows: 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 23 24 25. I have 28 rows. So for all the other sizes, 2 more rows upwards. So you're going to make your work face like this so that the flat edge, the flat edge should be on the inside of the piece. And then you're going to get these tails. If you don't have these tails and you've ended on this side, let me say you've ended on this side, just get a strand of yarn and join the 2 pieces together with a double knot or a triple knot, whichever you prefer to attach with. So at this point, let me just remove this stitch marker. It's no longer needed. And this is what we have, guys. Let me do a triple knot because a double knot kind of slides. Okay, this is what we have. Now we're going to get our next color. Remember, it's a random placement of colors. I haven't yet figured out the repeat of the colors, so I am randomly placing these colors. So you're going to attach your yarn on one side of your work. And this way is going to run all the way across both panels. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and place 2 half double crochets in the very first stitch, and then continue to half double crochet once in each of the next stitches until towards the middle section where the two panels meet, and I'll show you how to go about that area. So remember, at this point we are at the underbust level. So from here, this band at the base of both panels is the one that's going to be the bottom band. Let's consider these as the backups. And now we are creating the bottom band until we get to our waistline. All right, so when you come to the middle section, you're going to go into the space between the two panels and place a half double crochet there. And then go onto the opposite side and continue to half double crochet once in each and every stitch all the way across until you get to the last stitch, which will get 2 half double crochets. So from now on, we are increasing both at the beginning of the row and at the end of the row. Until I say that you should stop. So we're going to take some measurements after this row. All right, we've come to the end of the row and we are placing 2 half double crochets in the last stitch. So we've created an increase at the beginning and at the end of the row, and this is what we have. Now you're going to get your measuring tape and you're going to take this measurement across. So I have a total of 15, roughly 15 inches, and you're going to work until you're going to work this row until you get to your waistline. Yes, you're going to work this row until you get to your waistline level. So you're going to get your measuring tape and measure from under your bust up to your waistline. For me, I'm going to do a total of 5 inches right from this row. So this is the very first row of the bottom band. I'm going to work until I get to this level, and then I'll come back and show you what to do next. Keep increasing on the sides until you get to your waistline. Alternatively, if you happen to get 4 inches less, let me say, if your waistline, let me say, is 26 inches or 20, let's consider 26. If you work this row and you haven't yet reached the 5 inches, but this is 4 inches less than your waistline circumference, which should be at 22. 26, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, which should be at 22. If you happen to get here, then you're going to stop increasing and just work plain rows until you get your 5 inches, or the length from your underbust all the way to your waistline. So I hope I'm clear on that. Let me just go ahead and keep working my increase row, and I'll be back to show you what I have. Alright guys, I've zoomed out so that you can see the whole picture of what's happening. Let me get my measuring tape. I think I've gotten to my 5 inches or so. So you can see I have 5 inches from the row that started running across both panels. Have 5 inches. And I've done a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 rows in order to get to my 5 inches. So you're going to get your measuring tape still and take a measurement across the base of your piece. So for me, I have a total of 22 inches. But we want our waistline circumference because at this point we are at the waistline. Remember, we considered from under bust to waistline. So at this point we are at the waistline level and we want this measurement to get to our waistline circumference when slightly stretched. So slightly stretch your work. For me, mine goes to 24, but I am considering 26 inches. So that means I'm going to make a chain that's a difference between the waistline circumference, which is 26, and the 24 that I have here, which is a chain of 2 inches. So do your math and figure out the chain that you have to make in order to join in the round. So after your last half double crochet here, you're going to make a chain. For me, mine should be a chain of 2 inches. 1, 2, 3, and 10. Okay, let me see. So I'm going to just do a total of 10 chains and slip stitch into the very first half double crochet of the round. And then I'm going to make a chain of 1 and cut my yarn. Pull through. So now we are going to start working in rounds. So you're going to get your next color. For me, that will be mint green. And you're going to attach it in the middle of the chain that you just made. But make sure you're working in the opposite direction of the previous row. So I'm going to just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Because I've done a total of 10 chains, I'm going to just attach into the 5th and half double crochet in each and every chain. The reason why we are doing this is we want our seam line of the dress to be in the middle at the back of the dress. So that's why we've started our round here, because this is round 1. So you're going to go into each and every half double crochet with a half double crochet. And remember, we are working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And you're going to go all the way around until the end. So I'll meet you back towards the end of round 1. Now we are working in rounds. Alright guys, we're coming to the end of round 1 and I'm just going into the chains that we made at the back of the dress, into each and every chain. And once you're done with that, this is what you will have. You're going to slip stitch into the very first half double crochet of the round, like that. And now you're going to make a chain of 1. That is if you're switching colors at this point. If you're not, then you're going to just make a chain of 1 and turn your work. So for me, I'll be switching colors and I'll make a chain of 1, cut my yarn, and then I'll attach my new color, which is the brown color. So to attach your new color, you're going to turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And you're going to attach into the stitch before the loose end that you just left behind, and then make a chain of 1 and half double crochet into the very first stitch. Now, another thing that you're going to do is to get 2 stitch markers at this point. You're going to lay your work flat and make sure that this extension is in the center of your dress. And then you're going to get your 2 stitch markers and you're going to mark the sides of your work. Just get the side stitches and place a stitch marker there. And then on this side as well. So at this point, we have the 2 points where we're going to create increases for the hip accommodation, because remember, this circumference is for the waist and we need to increase so that we can get our hip circumference. So you're going to half double crochet in each and every stitch. This is round 2 until you get to the stitch before the stitch marker. 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch until the stitch before the first stitch marker. Remember, we have 2 stitch markers. So just place 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch until you place a half double crochet in the stitch before the one with the stitch marker. This is going to be an increase round. So I'm placing a half double crochet before the stitch with the stitch marker. You're going to remove your stitch marker at this point, and then you're going to place 3 half double crochets into that stitch that had the stitch marker. And then you're going to replace your stitch marker into the middle half double crochet of the 3 half double crochets you just placed. Just like that. And then continue with 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch until you get to your second stitch marker, where you will do the same exact thing. Alright, so we've reached our second stitch marker. You're going to remove it and then place 3 half double crochets in the stitch that had the stitch marker. And then you're going to replace your stitch marker into the middle half double crochet of the 3 half double crochets that you've just placed. And then you're going to just continue to place 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch until the end of the round. So those 2 points are going to be our increase points, and we are going to continue until the end of the round. Alright, so when you come to the end of the round, you're going to just place 1 slip stitch into the first half double crochet of the round. And that marks the end of round 2. We have created increase points and we have also started increasing. And you should see your work starting to move outwards. That's because we are creating accommodation for the hip circumference. Alright, so at this point, if you're going to switch your colors like I am, you're going to make a chain of 1, cut your yarn, and then attach your next color. Remember, you're going to always make sure you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. For me, my next color is going to be white, and actually, let me just go to a green color instead of white. I will use my green color next. So you're going to get your next color, whichever color it is, and you're going to attach your yarn just like you did for the previous round. Make sure you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. Attach your yarn in the stitch before the loose end that you just left behind for your previous color. Chain 1 and half double crochet into the same stitch, and then half double crochet once in each and every stitch until you get to the stitch with the stitch marker. So we've reached the stitch before the one with the stitch marker, and this time round we are not going to increase. So you're going to remove your stitch marker and you're going to place 1 half double crochet in the stitch that had the stitch marker, and then mark it again, because this will be our increase point for the next round. So basically we are alternating between an increase round and a non-increase round. So this is my non-increase round. You just go into each and every stitch with 1 half double crochet, but make sure you replace the stitch marker into the stitch that had the stitch marker from the previous round. So this is a non-increase round, that's why we haven't increased at this point. This is round 3. Remember, round 2 was our increase round, and now round 3 is a non-increase round. Then round 4 will be an increase round. So we shall basically alternate between the increase round and the non-increase round until the base of our dress measures half of our hip circumference when stretched. Alright, so we've come to the end of round 3, and I'm placing my last half double crochet and then slip stitching into the first half double crochet of the round. So at this point, as I had mentioned earlier on, you're going to repeat the same instructions as for the next round. You're going to repeat the same instructions as round 2, which is the increase round, and then for the next round, which will be round 5, sorry, you will repeat the same instructions as round 3, which is the non-increase round. So for me, for this round, I'm not going to switch colors. So you just make a chain of 1 and turn your work and half double crochet in each and every stitch until you get to the stitch before the stitch marker. And remember, this is my increase round. So that means when I get to the stitch with the stitch marker, I will place 3 half double crochets and then place the stitch marker into the middle half double crochet of the 3 half double crochets I'll have placed. So keep alternating between rounds 3 and 4, and I'm going to take a measurement at the base of my piece right now, because our main aim is to get our half of our hip circumference when stretched, and then we shall stop the increases. So right now I have about 14 inches without stretching, but when I stretch, just give it a good stretch, not so stretched, but something stretched enough. So I have about 17 inches or 16.5, and my main aim is to get half of the hip circumference, which I'm considering, which is 40 inches. So I'm going to alternate between the 2 rounds until I get to 20 inches when stretched, which is half of the hip circumference that I am considering for this design. So make sure you have half of the hip circumference that you're considering at this point, and I'll meet you back when I am at that point. You can see your work should start spreading out to prepare a room for hip accommodation. So let me keep working my 2 rounds, alternating between the increase round and the non-increase round until I get to that point whereby I have half of the hip circumference when stretched. Alright, so I continue to alternate between the increase and the non-increase round until the base of my piece could stretch to half of the hip circumference. As you can see here, I have 20 inches when stretched at the base of my piece. Now at this point you're going to remove your stitch markers because you're no longer going to increase on the sides of a piece, and you can see how our piece is spreading outwards to create accommodation for the hip. And then from now on we are going to just create rounds of no increase, the non-increase round. So you attach your yarn so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. Just like we've been doing for the non-increase round. So chain 1, half double crochet into the same stitch, and then 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch all the way around. This time no increases, and you're just going to keep alternating and placing your colors the way you wish until you get the length of the dress you want. You will notice that the direction of the dress will come from this to straight downwards, and then you're going to just keep working the non-increase round until you get the dress length that you want for yourself. You can either make it maxi, mini, or midi depending on your preference. And let me go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back when I have the dress length that I want for myself, and then we shall go onto the top shaping of the dress. Alright guys, I went ahead to make the length of the dress that I wanted, just plain rounds of half double crochets, and I got that length, the dress length that I wanted. At this point I'm at approximately 30 inches right from the top here, from here until the very last round of the dress. Mine is about 30 inches. Now you're going to get the color that you want to use to create an attachment for both the sides of the top part of the dress, and you're going to attach your yarn in the very first stitch. For me, I'll be using this dark brown, or the brown shade that I have used for the dress, and you're going to make 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch. All right, so I have my stitches here. I have 5 stitches, I believe. 1 2 3 4 5, and I'm going to just continue to make a chain of 1 and 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch. So I'm just going to go back and forth until I can wrap around my neck to the other side, the opposite side, which is supposed to be here. So for me, I have calculated that measurement, and I have a total of about 10 to 11 inches, but you can do this strap as long as you wish depending on your body type. Remember, this is a made to measure design, and you're going to tweak a few things of this design in order to suit your fitting, your body type basically. So continue to chain 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch. For me, for each and every row I have 5 stitches. So continue to maintain the number of stitches that you have for each and every row until you have about 10 to 11 inches or however long you want this strap to be, because it's supposed to come all the way to this side and we attach it here, and then we shall go on to the next step. So I'll be back to let you know how many rows that I ended up doing for this strap that's supposed to go all around the neck, and then we shall come back and also create the edging as well as the collar of the design. Alright guys, I ended up doing a total of 20 rows for that middle strap. And then after your 20th row, as you can see here, from here to here is 20 rows. You're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, leaving behind a tail to attach onto the opposite side. Now you're going to place your work as shown here. Let me just turn it around. So you're going to make sure that your work is flat like this, and then you're going to attach it to the opposite side, just like this. So you're going to get your darning needle and thread the tail that you just left behind. And now we are going to go ahead and attach stitch to stitch on the opposite side. Just make sure you attach the stitches together. Just like this. And then this is what you have. This is the extension that's going to wrap to go around the neck, around the back of the neck. And then at this point, you're going to just go ahead and weave in this tail very well. Make sure you secure it. And then you're going to cut your yarn. So this is what you're going to have at the top of your dress. And now you're going to go ahead and weave in all these tails that are on the edges, both at the front of the dress and then along the edge of the dress towards the back. So you can see we have several loose ends to weave in. I'm going to go ahead and weave those in, and then we shall come back and do some little work around this opening as well as the edges of the dress. Alright, so in order to weave in your ends, you're going to get each end, each loose end, as you can see here, and then you're going to thread it into your darning needle, and you're going to weave it into the same exact color. This way we're going to maintain the neatness of our piece. As much as we've used so many colors, we're going to be able to get a perfect finish for our piece. So what you do, you go into a few loops of the same exact color, but make sure you go back and forth. As you can see what I'm doing right now. You go behind and then go in front. Make sure you do that for each and every loose end, so that once you cut it off, it's well secured, as you can see, and it also doesn't show into the contrasting color. You're going to go ahead and do that for each and every loose end. This is going to take a while, but the results are totally worth it. I recommend you invest your time in such things in order to make your projects even better. Make sure you secure your yarn well enough for it not to unravel. And I am also doing this on the wrong side of my work. So you flip your work over to the back side or the wrong side of your work, and you weave in your tails. As you can see here, I've already gotten rid of so many of these loose ends, and you can see how neat the piece is as compared to what we have on this side. So go ahead and weave in all your loose ends, including the ones at the back of the lower part of the dress. And I'll meet you back when all the loose ends are off, and then we shall do the final touches on top of the dress. Alright guys, after getting rid of all your loose ends, you're going to have a very neat finish, as you can see here. Now we're going to go onto the boundary of the dress, and you're going to pick your boundary color. This is going to wrap up the edges on this side and on the middle circle of the dress. And for me, I think I will have to go with the brown color because I don't like bright colors on my edges of my crochet projects. So I'm going to get my brown color and I'm going to attach it in any row. We're going to first work around the middle opening of the dress, clean up the edges, and then also create the collar of the dress, and then we shall go onto the outside edge and also clean it up. So what I'm going to do is to attach in any row, any half double crochet row. Remember, we are working the middle, that middle circle of the dress. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and half double crochet into the same row, and then into the same row we are going to place another half double crochet. So we are literally placing 2 half double crochets in one row and then a half double crochet in the next. So the repeat is 2 in the next row and then 1 in the next row. You're going to repeat that all the way around. 2 half double crochets in the next row and then 1 half double crochet in the next row. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want to distort the shape of the dress. 2 half double crochets in the next and then 1 half double crochet in the next. So you're going to keep alternating between that 2 1 2 1 all the way around that middle opening. And then I'll meet you back at the beginning of the round because this is going to be worked in the round. So choose your boundary color. If you want it to be bright, please go ahead, feel free to do that. But for me, I prefer darker colors on my crochet boundaries. So you can see how it's very easy to work the boundary when we've already gotten rid of the loose ends. Everything is very clear and there's no sort of confusion. Alright guys, once you get to the base here, once you place your stitches in the last row on this side, you're just going to go onto the opposite side. So if you've ended with 2 half double crochets into the last row here, you're going to start with 2 half double crochets into the first row on the opposite side. And then you're going to go all the way up, alternating between 1 half double crochet in the next row and then 2 half double crochets into the next row until the end of the round. So you can see how the plain color is kind of wrapping up and cleaning up the edge on the middle opening of the dress. Alright, so we've made it to the end of the round and we're going to make another round of half double crochet stitches in the same exact direction. So once you get to the end, you're not going to slip stitch. Actually, let's just slip stitch into the very first half double crochet of the round, just like that. And then you're going to make a chain of 1 and half double crochet once in each and every stitch around. This is going to be the last round before we work the collar of our dress. So just make 1 half double crochet in each and every half double crochet stitch, but make sure that you're working in the same direction. Sorry, make sure you're working in the same direction as the previous round. And that's on the right side of the work. So this is what you're going to have. You're going to continue all the way around until you come back to the beginning of the round. Alright, so we're coming to the end of this round, and I'm just placing 1 half double crochet in each of the last stitches, and then you're going to slip stitch into the very first half double crochet of the round, and then you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. Alright, so we're done with the cleaning up of the edges on the inside opening of the dress. Now what we're going to do right now is to create the collar. You're going to mark where you want the collar to start from. So you're going to get 2 stitch markers, I'll get those of the same color, and then I'm going to mark the sides where I want the collar to sit. So I want that and this. So what I've considered is around the same point on both sides. So now we are going to create our collar that's going to go from this point all the way to this point. And you're going to determine what color you want to use for the collar. For me, that is still going to be the brown color, because this area here is an area that sweats a lot, and you wouldn't want to place a white color on the collar of the dress. Otherwise, it will be soaked with hair oil, with Vaseline, lotions, and all that perfume. So it tends to get dirtier faster than the other parts. So I want to still use the brown color to create the collar of the dress. So you're going to grab your yarn and you're going to attach it into the stitch with a stitch marker. So I'm going to make sure I'm working in the opposite direction of the previous row. So I'm going to attach my yarn in this stitch with the stitch marker. And just like that, we're going to work all the way to the stitch with the stitch marker on this side. So we're going to place 2 half double crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 half double crochet in each of the next stitches until the stitch before the stitch marker. Actually, I would have worked in the back loop. Let me work in the back loop so that we can get an automatic fold. So after attaching your yarn, you're going to go into the back loop of that stitch with 2 half double crochets in the very first stitch, and then 1 half double crochet in the back loop of each of the following stitches until the stitch before the stitch marker. So that way the fold is very easy, as you can see here. So work in the back loop. So you can see the difference of what we had before and what we have now. The fold will be much easier when we work in the back loop for the first row of the collar. So 1 half double crochet back loop only in each of the next stitches until the stitch before the stitch marker. Alright, so we've reached the stitch before the stitch marker, and what we are going to do is remove the stitch marker from the next stitch, which should be the last stitch, and we're going to place 2 half double crochets into the back loop only of the stitch that had the stitch marker. So what we are doing is basically increasing the beginning and the end of the row. For row 1 we are working in the back loop only. That's because that's going to make our fold much easier. Now from this row onwards until you get the thickness of the collar that you want, you're going to just make a chain of 1 and turn your work. These are the short rows of the collar. So you chain 1, turn your work, and work in both loops. Work 2 half double crochets into the very first stitch, and then 1 half double crochet in each of the next stitches. This time we are going into both loops, not only the back loop. So we're going into both loops and placing 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch until the second last stitch. So this is going to create a kind of slant, as you'll see later on as we keep working more and more rows. So 1 half double crochet in each and every stitch until the second last stitch of the collar. So after placing a half double crochet in the second last stitch of the collar, you're going to go into the very last stitch, which is this one, and you're going to go into both loops with 2 half double crochets, which is creating an increase at the end of the row as well. So you create an increase both at the beginning and at the end of the row. So we're going to repeat row 2 again and again until we get the thickness of the collar that we want, and I'll be back to show you what my collar will look like after a few rows and how many rows that I considered for the collar for my dress. So just repeat row 2 of the collar again and again, and I'll meet you back after that. So you just make a chain of 1 and turn your work. Create an increase at the beginning of the row by placing 2 half double crochets in the first stitch, and follow the same exact instructions for row 2 of the collar. Alright guys, I ended up doing a total of 9 rows for the collar. As you can see here, this is what the collar looks like. Now you're going to make a chain of 1 once you get the thickness of the collar that you want, and you're going to cut your yarn. If I'm to take a measurement of the thickness of my collar, it measures about 3 inches thick right from the very first row. Actually a little below 3 inches, like 2.8, but yeah, that's the thickness of my collar. Now you can see how the fold is very easy because the foundation row of the collar was worked in the back loop, so the fold is already predetermined. So we are getting a very beautiful fold, as you can see here. Then the collar is slanting towards the base of the dress on both sides, as you can see here. Now let's have a look at the level where we are at the moment and go on to the next step, which is to clean up the edges on the outside edge of the dress. because the inner edge of the dress has been cleaned up and the final results have been achieved. All right, now that we know what our dress looks like, we are now going to clean up the edge on this side, around the back as well as the back of the neck. We're just going to go around this area here and clean it up the same exact way that we did for the front of the dress. So you're going to attach your yarn in any stitch here at the back of the dress, and we're basically going to go into the chains. You remember that extension chain that we made at the back of the dress? You're going to go in the middle section of it along the seam line. As you can see here, we have a seam line on this dress. It may not be as visible, but it's there somewhere along this line. So you're going to attach your yarn and go into each and every chain with 1/2 double crochet. So the process is basically going to be the same as what we did when we were cleaning up the edge at the front of the dress. So after going into the chains here, you're going to go into one row on this side with 2 half double crochets, and then 1 half double crochet in the next row, 2 half double crochets in the next, and 1 half double crochet in the next. So you're just going to alternate between 2 and 1, 2 and 1 all the way around until you get back to the chain, the extension chain, the second half of the extension chain at the back of the dress, where you will place 1 half double crochet in each and every chain and then wind up your round. This is also to clean up the edge so that we have a uniform color around the back opening of the dress, just like we did at the front opening of the dress. So go all the way around and around the back of the neck and come back to the beginning of the round, and I'll meet you back at this point. Alright, so we're back to the beginning of the round, and I'm placing a slip stitch into the very first half double crochet of the round. You can see how clean the edge is right now, and it's matching beautifully with what we already have. Remember, the collar folds to the side. This is the back of the dress, and you can see how this brown is matching with the front brown. Now we're going to go ahead and repeat the same exact step as round 2 of the opening at the front of the dress. So you just make a chain of 1, and working in the same direction as the previous round, you're going to go into each and every stitch with 1 half double crochet. This is going to be the final round. Go into each and every stitch with 1 half double crochet to finally clean up the edge of the back opening of the dress. So that way we shall have matched what we have at the front with what we have at the back, creating some sort of uniformity. So remember how the front looked like. We are going to have the same exact effect at the back of the dress. So go all the way around the back opening, and when you get here, slip stitch into the very first half double crochet of the round and make a chain of 1, cut your yarn. So I'll be back to show you what mine looks like once I'm done with this final round. Alright guys, we've made it all the way around, and I've just placed my last half double crochet, and you can see how the thickness of the brown is now very clear and evident. And now we're going to slip stitch into the very first half double crochet of the round, make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, pull through, Now you can go ahead and weave in all your tails of the piece, and let's see the final look of our piece. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure you give it a thumbs up, guys, and let me know down in the comment section if you're going to try it out or if you enjoyed this video. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.